What if the reason your dreams feel distant isn't because they're far away, but because you're tuned to the wrong frequency? This isn't about wishful thinking, vision boards, or repeating mantras until your throat goes dry. It's about resonance. Softly, quietly, your life is responding to what you are, not what you say. In a universe made of vibration, desire doesn't shout, it hums. This story invites you to let go of the performance of manifestation and tune, instead to the deeper rhythm of alignment. Before we begin, take a slow breath. Check in. Where are you listening from? Morning light in your room? A darkened train ride? A quiet hour before sleep? Wherever you are, this is for you. Subscribe if you feel the resonance. We explore the soft architecture of unseen truths here. Now, imagine a timeline already holding your deepest peace, love, and ease. Not as a reward, but as a match. You don't chase what's already yours. You remember it. Let's begin the remembering now. They told you to visualize harder. That if you just believed with more intensity, the universe would listen louder. That the gap between you and the life you want could be crossed with enough vision boards, enough affirmations, enough daily rituals under the right moon phase. You tried. You curated the perfect frequency playlist, meditated before dawn, whispered desires into your tea as steam curled into symbols you hoped were heard. But still something didn't click. Not deeply, not sustainably, not in a way that felt like truth had come home. And quietly, without fanfare, a question began to echo, not out of cynicism, but longing. What if reality isn't changed by volume, but by resonance? What if the universe isn't waiting for your effort, but for your coherence? No one told you that manifestation, in its purest form, isn't about chasing outcomes. It's about becoming the frequency that naturally includes them. You weren't meant to force your dreams into existence like bricks laid by willpower. You were meant to soften into the version of you who already lives that dream. Not someday, but now, in subtle, invisible threads, your nervous system already knows how to weave if it feels safe enough to trust. You weren't failing. You were just tuning too loudly, on the wrong station in the quantum field, the living, vibrating matrix, from which all timelines emerge. There is no such thing as begging. There is only broadcasting. This field doesn't respond to desperation, even if masked as positivity. It reads energy, not intention, nervous systems, not notebooks. It listens to the real you, the coherent you, the layered constellation of belief, emotion, memory, and embodied response that moves through life like a song. Most people aren't manifesting, they're distorting. They are unknowingly sending mixed signals to a field that only understands harmony. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And when what you are is divided, unsure, tensed, or trying too hard, your timeline reflects the static. Think of an untuned radio, crackling between stations. That's what manifestation becomes when your thoughts say one thing, your emotions signal another, and your body prepares for an entirely different reality. The field isn't confused, you are, and confusion collapses potential. Desire without coherence becomes noise. The real magic isn't in pushing harder, but in softening into signal clarity. Most people walk through life thinking in one timeline, feeling in another, and behaving from a third entirely. They visualize abundance while their body contracts. At every financial decision, they call in love while rehearsing abandonment in their bones. They pray for peace while expecting chaos, because peace, deep down, still feels unfamiliar. The field doesn't judge this, it just mirrors it. With absolute precision, you were taught that desire is something to project outward, but in truth, it's an invitation inward. Not to demand, but to align. Not to script, but to remember. The life you want isn't out there. It's a frequency already existing, waiting, for you to stop arguing with it, fearing it, proving yourself to it. The quantum doesn't work on reward. It works on recognition. And the version of you who has everything you long for, that version isn't an upgrade. It's a remembering. Let's go deeper. Every human is born into a particular energetic tone, a baseline imprint shaped by environment, trauma, touch, tone of voice, even silence. The nervous system learns what's safe, what's available, what's likely. Long before logic, before vocabulary, before desire had form, your system was learning the music of reality, and it shaped your resonance. If love came with pain, you tuned love with caution. If abundance came with fear, you tuned success with tension. If joy was fleeting, you trained yourself to expect loss. These aren't blocks, they're old safety codes still running the show. Not out of sabotage, but memory. The subconscious doesn't resist your desires out of spite. It simply hasn't been taught that they are safe. Here's the paradox. The mind will scream affirmations, while the body whispers distrust. The soul may long for freedom, while the gut still clenches at risk. You must remember, your frequency is not your voice. It's your vibration. And vibration speaks through breath. Tone, posture, choice, stillness, rhythm. This is why trying harder rarely works. Because trying often emerges from fear of lack, fear of being behind, fear that you must perform to receive. But what you perform, the field cannot hear. It hears what you embody. It reflects what you carry, not what you chase. So you wonder, why do some people seem to receive without effort? Why does peace land in their lap while you work so hard just to stay afloat? The answer isn't in their technique. It's in their nervous system. They aren't more deserving. They are simply more coherent. Their field isn't clearer because of luck. It's clearer because they stopped pretending to be someone else. They stopped fighting their own frequency. They let their system soften into safety. And in safety, alignment becomes automatic. This is not metaphor. It is physics. There is a principle in science called resonance. When two objects vibrate at similar frequencies, one can cause the other to begin vibrating too. It's how a singer can shatter glass with their voice. It's how tuning forks hum in harmony across a room. It's how energy travels without wires. And it's how your life forms around you. You are not summoning things through effort. You are syncing with them. Life doesn't obey commands. It follows signal strength. You don't manifest a reality, you match it. Let's pause here. Not to change the subject, but to shift the field. Take a breath right now, deeper than usual. Let it fill your ribs without urgency. As you exhale, notice where in your body there's still tension, as if you've been racing against your own timeline. Soften there, not because it's wrong, but because it's old. Tell your body it is safe now. Speak it without words through. Warmth, slowness, presence. That alone begins to retune you. Because regulation is the foundation of resonance. Now, ask your body, not your brain, what timeline it thinks you're living in. Not the one you journal about. The one your breath and posture and tone assume every day. Is it a timeline of survival or safety? Of proving or resting? Of hiding or expressing? This is the real work. To shift timelines, you must shift the system that chooses them. Because here's the secret most teachings skip. Your subconscious, not your conscious mind, is the true observer in the quantum field. And the subconscious was shaped in the earliest years of your life, when you had no words, only sensation. If you learned that love equals abandonment, that money equals stress, that joy equals danger, your adult logic may disagree, but your subconscious still vibrates with those truths. And it is that vibration the quantum field obeys. Not your thoughts, your tone. Not your goals, your signal. So no, you're not broken. You're broadcasting from history, and history can be retuned. This isn't about bypassing. It's about reattuning. And that begins with a single coherent act, noticing, without judgment, with reverence. Every moment of contraction is a breadcrumb leading you to a part of yourself asking to be met, not shamed. A part of you that believed something once, long ago, and just wants to feel safe enough to believe something new. You don't overwrite these parts. You don't scold them. You include them. You hold them in coherence until they soften. And when they soften, the field shifts with them. Let me offer you a truth that doesn't need you to believe it only. To feel it, you are not meant to beg life for blessings. You are here to remember that you are the tuning fork of your own timeline. You don't create from force. You create from clarity. You are not waiting. You waking. And the world you long for is not beyond you. It's inside the version of you who no longer tries to become because she already is Dot. And when you begin to walk as her, speak as her, breathe as her, not performatively, but peacefully, you become magnetized. You don't get love. You walk in the field of love. You don't attract wealth. You move as generosity. You don't earn joy. You relax into the vibration that joy naturally arises from. These aren't steps. They are states. And states shift timelines. This is where we begin. There is a version of you that already exists in harmony with what you thought you had to earn. A version of you who doesn't hustle to deserve love, who doesn't micromanage the cosmos to receive. Peace, who doesn't tighten their chest every time they look at their future. This version of you is not a fantasy. It's a frequency. And frequencies don't arrive someday. They are available now in the silence beneath your trying, in the stillness under your affirmations, in the moment you decide to live from safety, not strategy. You've probably been taught to frame reality like a problem to solve, something to manipulate through effort, vision, technique. But energy doesn't respond to pressure. The quantum field doesn't answer to force. It mirrors coherence. And coherence is not a mindset. It's a full-body resonance between your breath, your beliefs, and your biology. When those are aligned, manifestation becomes a side effect, not a task, not a chase, not a performance. Here's the hidden truth. Your nervous system is your most honest timeline selector. It will betray every affirmation that isn't safe. It will reject every goal. That hasn't been normalized. You cannot trick it into alignment. You must partner with it, speak its language, build trust over time. This is the unsexy magic of real transformation. Not scripting, not demanding, but deep listening. Nervous systems don't respond to hype. They respond to felt safety. When your system feels safe, you don't manifest more, you receive more. You stop defaulting to old patterns. You stop bracing. You stop preparing for collapse. And in that openness, the field listens. Take a breath. Check your body. Is your jaw tight? Shoulders curled in? Belly pulled upward? These are signals, not of failure, but of unsafety. Your body is scanning for threat, while your mind is scripting abundance. This is the contradiction that scrambles the signal. And it's not your fault. The human system is wired to survive first, dream second. The work, then, is to make dreaming feel safe again. Safety doesn't mean perfection. It means regulation. Your body doesn't need you to have it all figured out. It needs to know it can breathe here, that it's allowed to exist here. That sensation won't be punished. That expression won't be rejected. When your nervous system knows you'll stay with it through contraction, the field begins to shift. Because coherence is not about always being calm. It's about returning gently, consistently, compassionately to center. Let's bring this into the practical. Before you set another intention, ask, does my body believe this is possible? Does this desire feel like home or threat? Does my breath open or constrict when I imagine this timeline? These questions are not hypothetical. They are keys. If the answer is threat, then regulate first. Soften first. Speak to your system like a trusted guide. We are not in the past anymore. It's okay to let this in, because your body is listening, and it remembers everything. Most of your current reality is shaped not by conscious choices, but by unconscious rehearsals. You are living inside memorized chemistry. Your emotions fire in patterns. Your reactions are echoes of what used to keep you safe. That version of you who feared visibility, who expected betrayal, who learned to disappear in order to survive, that version is still alive in the tissues, gently asking, is it safe now? And your job is not to shame that part. Your job is to welcome them back into resonance. This is the sacred task. Coherence between all your parts. The version of you who dreams. The version of you who doubts. The version of you who froze. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be harmonized. Imagine a symphony tuning before a concert, each instrument finding its note, not by shouting over others, but by listening, adjusting, breathing. That's what you are. A frequency learning to remember itself, not perfectly, but precisely. This is why things start to shift when you stop chasing. Because chasing creates separation. Chasing says it's not here yet, but frequency says, I already am. When you act from alignment, not compensation, you become magnetic. Your energy moves differently. You stop trying to prove. You start to embody, and the field listens. Not because it was withholding before, but because it couldn't hear through. The static dot, do you see it now? The paradox? Trying too hard is the clearest sign that the body doesn't believe it's allowed to receive. Not because you're broken, but because your system learned that ease was suspicious. That joy had consequences. That too much good meant something bad would follow. And so you stayed in tension, confusing vigilance for virtue. But the field doesn't respond to virtue. It responds to vibration dot. So what if your next level doesn't require more of you, but less pretending? Less tensing, less proving, less waiting dot. What if your next level asks you to become honest about what still feels scary to want? Sometimes desire feels threatening because it wasn't safe to express it. You were taught to shrink it, to swallow it, to mask it as modesty. And so your system linked desire with danger. But now this moment, you get to reteach it. Not by shouting, but by allowing. You say, desire is safe now. It's okay to want. It's okay to let it arrive. And still, you'll wobble. There will be days when your old codes feel louder, when you want to collapse into effort again, when you forget that beingness is enough. That's not failure. That's rhythm, the spiral of growth. Every time you wobble and choose alignment anyway, you rewire the path. You leave footprints in the field for the version of you still catching up. And those footprints matter. Don't underestimate the quantum impact of one soft breath in the middle of panic, of one kind word to yourself after self-judgment, of one still moment where you choose to trust without evidence. These moments are small on the surface, but massive in signal. They become attractors. They become timelines. Now, let's bring in one more frequency. Reverence. When you treat your life like something sacred, your body relaxes. When you stop criticizing your path and start honoring it, your vibration shifts. When you remember that your timing isn't late, it's precise, your field settles into coherence. Reverence isn't religious, it's relational. It's how you hold your life in your hands. Is it a burden or a blessing? The field feels the difference. There is no neutral moment. Every emotion, every reaction, every choice is a vote. Not for worthiness, but for resonance. You're not being tested. You're being tuned. And tuning isn't linear. Sometimes you'll feel like you've regressed. You haven't. You're revisiting layers, deepening the signal. The field isn't judging. It's echoing. You are not late. You are aligning. You are not behind. You are remembering. You are not broken. You are broadcasting dot, and the clearer your signal becomes, the less you need to manifest. Because the field starts meeting you halfway. People shift. Opportunities land. Serendipities multiply. Not because of magic, but because of matching. Like finds like, this is resonance, not reward. This is why your future is not a mystery. It's a mirror dot. It will show you what you most often feel, not what you most often say. Dot, it will reflect what you normalize, not what you fantasize. Dot, and so the most powerful thing you can do is normalize joy. Normalize receiving. Normalize rest. Support, love, ease, delight. Not just when things are perfect, but especially when they're not. The quantum doesn't respond to your calendar. It responds to your chemistry. Dot, so build new chemistry. Moment by moment, breath by breath. And when you feel resistance, that's not a problem. That's a doorway. Dot, resistance shows you where the field is waiting for recalibration, where your old stories still hum, hoping to be heard, not silenced. Lean in, not to fix, but to feel, to soften, to release the static and send a clearer tone. And remember this, you are not doing this alone. You are co-regulating with the field, with nature, with others who are tuning too. Every act of coherence adds signal strength to the collective. Every embodied choice you make strengthens the path for someone else. You become a lighthouse, not by shouting, but by shining. Dot, and when the light feels dim, that's okay too. Even in static, the signal is never lost, just layered, just waiting. Dot, just ready. What would change if you stopped asking for things to arrive, and instead started becoming the version of you who lives as if they already had? Not pretending, not forcing, but remembering. Remembering that embodiment is the only true form of asking that the field can actually hear. That your life doesn't respond to declarations, it responds to demonstration. And demonstration is not performance. It's the quiet, cellular choice to live from the vibration you used to wait for. Imagine this, a radio tower doesn't hope for listeners. It simply broadcasts. It sends its signal, unwavering, stable, clear, not because it's demanding attention, but because it is its frequency. And everything attuned to that frequency receives it. You are not meant to be a seeker. You are meant to be a signal. Your desires don't need to be chased. They need to be consistently, gently, quietly lived. This is why healing matters. Not to fix you, but to clear the distortions. To help your nervous system recognize that it's no longer living inside the moment that originally taught it to dim. The memory of fear, rejection, scarcity, it lingers not because it's real now, but because it was real once. And your system, like an old compass, keeps pointing to it. But you are not that timeline anymore. You're not inside the event, you're inside the echo. And echoes fade with new sound. That sound is presence. Dot. So when your body contracts, when shame tightens the breath, when lack returns like a familiar fog pause, don't rush to override. Don't bury it in positivity. Instead, meet it. Say to your own body, I hear you, and I'm here now. Coherence doesn't mean eliminating discomfort. It means integrating it. Letting every part of you know that sensation is safe, emotion is safe, receiving is safe. And once that message lands once, the system stops waiting for the other shoe to drop. You'll notice something astonishing. Life starts responding differently. You say less, but things come easier. You plan less, but synchronicities increase. You grasp less, but stability grows. Why? Because the field no longer needs to reflect your inner chaos to get your attention. It starts mirroring your calm instead. This is where people begin to feel the truth in their bones. Manifestation is not mystical. It's biological. It's relational. It's environmental. You're not calling things into your life. You're calibrating your system to exist inside the timeline where those things already are. And that calibration isn't loud. It's gentle. It's built breath by breath. Still, many will ask, but what about desire? Isn't it natural to want more? To stretch? To grow? Of course. Desire is sacred. Desire is the divine pull toward alignment. But there are two kinds of desire. One that emerges from coherence, and one that emerges from lack. One feels like inspiration. The other feels like escape. One expands you. The other fractures you. The field responds accordingly. When desire rises from wholeness, it lands. When it rises from panic, it loops dot, so the question becomes, can you desire from peace? Can you want without needing? Can you allow your vision to guide you, not prove you? Because when desire no longer comes from the wound, it becomes magnetic. When you no longer need the thing to feel complete, your frequency becomes a match for the version of you who already has it. Not because you gave up, but because you gave in. Gave in to the now, to presence, to enough nest dot, and here's where. It gets subtle. Even the idea of working on yourself can become a disguise for resistance. Healing becomes another form of performance. Growth becomes another flavor of not good enough. You start chasing healing the same way you chased outcomes. This too is distortion, because you can't heal from the belief that you're broken. You can only remember what's already whole underneath the noise. And remembering doesn't require striving. It requires listening. Let your system rest. You don't have to become anyone. You only have to stop arguing with who you already are. When you rest into your real signal, the one beneath the survival patterns, beneath the programming, beneath the self-improvement spiral, what arises is not apathy. It's clarity. And with clarity comes discernment. And with discernment, you begin choosing from resonance, not reaction. Suddenly, you don't chase love that feels like absence. You don't pursue opportunities that taste like exhaustion. You don't reach for timelines that require self-abandonment. Instead, you move toward what makes your cells exhale. You choose what's alive. You choose what's aligned. And you'll know it not by logic, but by sensation. This is your compass now, your felt sense. Not your thoughts, not your past, not your spreadsheet, but your inner resonance. That subtle, often inconvenient truth that whispers, this is it or not this. Learn to trust it, because that whisper is the real manifestation coach. That whisper is the antenna adjusting your signal. Sometimes the most quantum thing you can do is say no. Sometimes alignment means letting go of what almost fits, of what looks right but doesn't feel true, of what promises visibility but costs your peace. You'll find that as your frequency clears, so does your tolerance for noise. And this is not collapse, it's calibration. Let yourself become simple. Let yourself become clear. Let your life get quiet, enough that your signal is unmistakable. And when doubt creeps in, and it will, don't fight it. Don't push past it. Sit with it. Ask it what timeline it's from. Ask it what part of you it's trying to protect. You'll be amazed at how fast fear softens when you meet it with attention instead of strategy. Because doubt, too, is part of the orchestra. And coherence doesn't silence the cello. It tunes it. There's an old idea in mysticism that the external world is made of mirrors. But in quantum terms, this isn't metaphor, it's physics. Every person you meet, every challenge you face, every synchronicity you notice is entangled with your field. When you walk through life thinking you are alone, the field responds accordingly, with separation, with resistance, with complexity. But when you walk through life knowing you are part of the web, that your frequency impacts the whole the field begins folding toward you like a tide. This is not power. This is participation. You are not a god in control of the universe. You are an instrument inside its music. And when you play in tune, everything harmonizes. That's why play matters. Joy matters. Slowness matters. Not as spiritual bypass, but as vibrational truth. Play is how your nervous system resets. Joy is how your timeline expands. Slowness is how you receive more than you could ever plan. So, take the pressure off. You are not here to manifest your worth. You are here to express it. To let your inner coherence ripple outward until life reflects it back. Not all at once, not always cleanly, but consistently. And here's the truth you'll begin to live into. When you are coherent, life doesn't get perfect. It gets precise. The right things stay. The wrong things dissolve. The middle things get clarified. And you stop trying to manifest reality and start shaping it through the way you move, the way you answer the phone, the way you leave a room, the way you eat lunch, the way you speak when no one is watching, the way you breathe in uncertainty. This is where the real tuning happens. Not in the moments of breakthrough, but in the small, ordinary pulses of your day. When your vibration is steady enough to stay in coherence, no matter what the world throws at you. Not because you're numb, but because you're anchored. Not because you've mastered life, but because you've stopped making your signal conditional on circumstances. You are the broadcaster. Now, you're not begging the universe to hear you. You are the frequency. You are the transmission. And as your body calibrates, your reality does too. So here's your invitation. Don't chase another technique. Don't force another affirmation. Don't try to trick the field into giving you what you think you need. Instead, tune. Become the station. Broadcast gently, clearly, authentically. Let life come to you, not because you sat still, but because you sat true. You don't need to do more. You need to become who you already are. When you stop trying to be someone else, and in that softness, the timeline shifts. Not later. Out somewhere inside you, there's a version of you who never unlearned how to listen, who still hears the subtle rhythm of life not as noise, but as invitation. This version doesn't wait for signs. They are the sign. They don't speak to the universe with words. They hum with it. They're not worried about becoming. They're remembering they already are. That version is not far. In fact, you're closer to them when you stop reaching and start residing. When you stop repeating mantras to force change and begin treating the present as if it's already sacred, because it is. This is not about romanticizing struggle or bypassing effort. It's about learning to distinguish between effort that emerges from fear and movement that arises from alignment. One contracts, one expands. The body knows the difference. Feel it. When you strive, does your breath shorten? When you chase, do your shoulders rise? When you rehearse a conversation to control how you'll be seen, does your voice sound like home? Your body is always answering. The answers aren't always convenient, but they're always honest. And if you allow them to lead, not dictate, but inform, you start living from resonance, not resistance. You start feeling your way into timelines instead of forcing them into shape. And life starts flowing toward you, not because it was finally convinced to love you, but because you finally stopped rejecting your own signal long enough to be met. This is where so many teachings fall short. They offer tools, but not tone. They give you steps, but not safety. And without safety, no step lands. You can have the perfect affirmation, the most tuned vision, the highest vibe playlist, but if your nervous system is rehearsing abandonment, no amount of scripting will change the signal. You don't receive what you affirm. You receive what your system allows. So how do we begin to allow? Not by doing more, but by going deeper, by choosing gently, consistently, to be with what's already here, without judgment. That's the beginning of signal clarity. Not control, but compassion. Sit with yourself, like you would with a child who's just had a nightmare. Not to correct, not to scold, just to hold. Ask, what part of me doesn't feel safe right now? And wait, don't fill the silence. Let the answer come through sensation, not intellect. Let the memory surface not as a story, but as a feeling, and then breathe with it. Not to make it disappear, but to let it know it no longer has to be alone. This is how the field shifts, not when the past is deleted, but when it's integrated. You don't become magnetic by forgetting who you were. You become magnetic by holding all of who you've been in your present frequency with love. That love is coherence. That holding is alchemy. When people say, be the version of you who already has it, they often mean it superficially. Dress like them, talk like them, act like them. But embodiment isn't fear, it's resonance. It's the inner alignment between thought, feeling, action, and breath. It's the sensation of your future self already relaxing inside you. Not because they've finally arrived, but because you finally allowed them to lead. And when they lead, everything simplifies. You stop trying to manifest love. You start speaking like someone who is already loved, not to prove it, but because you know it. You stop trying to manifest abundance. You start making choices like someone who trusts their needs will be met, not recklessly, but rooted. You stop trying to manifest clarity. You start listening like someone who expects wisdom to speak from within. And suddenly life responds. Not because you won the cosmic lottery, but because you stopped sending mixed signals. The field doesn't need convincing. It needs coherence. You've probably noticed this before. In the moments you weren't trying, things clicked. In the spaces where you forgot to beg, you received. The day you finally gave up needing a text to come, it arrived. The time you took a nap instead of stressing about a solution, it showed up. That wasn't coincidence. That was alignment. That was you dropping below the static of striving into the signal of surrender. This is not passive. This is presence. Presence is not inactivity. It's intention without tension. It's movement from center, not compensation. It's the kind of stillness that carries force. The kind of softness that rewires gravity. So ask yourself, what would change if I no longer needed proof before choosing peace? That question alone recalibrates your field. Because most of us were taught to trade peace for certainty. We were told that if we worry enough, plan enough, micromanage enough, we might earn the right to relax. But the field doesn't work on payment. It works on pattern. And when your pattern is urgency, your reality reflects delay. When your pattern is proving, your reality reflects rejection. When your pattern is pressure, your reality mirrors exhaustion. Break the pattern, not by trying harder, but by resting deeper. Say to yourself, even here, I am safe. Even now, I am worthy. Even without knowing, I am being guided. And then, look for micro-evidence, not miracles, not fireworks, just subtle coherence. A moment of calm where there used to be panic. A yes that feels like exhale. A no that doesn't come with guilt. These are signals. These are shifts. Celebrate them. The nervous system learns through repetition, yes, but also through resonance. Every time you acknowledge alignment, you amplify it. Every time you notice your new default becoming peace, you reinforce it. The field pays attention to your attention. So place it gently, deliberately, lovingly. And here's something tender. Sometimes the highest manifestation is not a thing. It's a self. The self who doesn't betray their truth. The self who doesn't tolerate timelines that ask them to. Shrink. The self who wakes up in the morning and feels safe in their skin. not because everything's perfect, but because they no longer abandon their own signal just to be liked, loved, or safe. That self doesn't need a quantum script. They are the script. Every step they take becomes instruction to the field. Every breath becomes a portal. Every yes or no becomes an activation. That's the level you're walking into, where manifestation is not a goal, but a language, not a practice, but a presence. And yes, you'll still be human. You'll still forget. You'll still flinch when old fears echo louder than your current safety, but you'll return quicker. You'll wobble with grace. You'll fall without drama and rise with gentleness. Because coherence is not about perfection. It's about returning. And in every return, the field stabilizes. The mirror becomes clearer. The path becomes quieter. And the journey becomes less about getting there and more about being here, right here, where your breath already holds the tone of your next chapter. Where your body already speaks the language of your future, where nothing is missing except your willingness to trust that stillness is enough to start, that presence is power, that becoming was never the point, because what you're really doing isn't becoming someone else. You are becoming so deeply yourself that everything unlike you falls away, and what remains? Resonance. Not with fantasy, but with truth, not with outcomes, but with origins. Not with force, but with frequency. You are the tuning fork. You are the transmission. You are the remembering, and the field has never stopped listening. The most powerful transformation doesn't begin with noise. It begins in the pause, when something inside you stops chasing and starts listening. Not for signs, not for secrets, but for self. You begin to notice how your body speaks the language of your actual timeline, even when your mouth recites the vocabulary of desire. The words may say abundance, but the breath says bracing. The mind may say, I am ready, while the stomach clenches with the memory of past loss. That gap between what you say and what you feel isn't failure. It's feedback. The field is showing you where your coherence is still unfolding. And unfolding isn't weakness. It's alignment learning how to land. You're not here to live perfectly. You're here to live precisely. And precision doesn't mean complexity. It means clarity. The clearest signal isn't the loudest. It's the one that doesn't contradict itself. When your thoughts, emotions, breath, and behavior point in the same direction, even if softly, the field responds without resistance. Coherence does not require intensity. It requires consistency. And consistency begins in the smallest choices, like choosing to breathe instead of brace, choosing to speak truthfully even when it trembles, choosing to rest without guilt, to walk slower than your fear, to say no without apology. These are not minor actions. They are vibrational recalibrations. Every micro adjustment in your lived behavior is a macro adjustment in the quantum field. When you shift internally, the probabilities around you shift as well. But this movement is rarely cinematic. It's often quiet, imperceptible, relational. You don't always notice the field shifting in real time, but it notices you. And this is the paradox most people miss. The more you try to control the timeline, the more you distort your own signal. Control is a substitute for trust. It masks the belief that it's not safe to receive unless I'm managing every variable. But the field does not reward control. It mirrors coherence. And coherence can't be micromanaged. It must be embodied. So what does embodiment look like in practice? It looks like walking into a room without shrinking your energy to be accepted. It looks like making decisions from your center, rather than from fear of what might happen. It looks like speaking with a tone that already belongs to the future you. Imagine. Not because you're pretending, but because you're practicing frequency. You're attuning to the version of you that exists beyond survival. The one who doesn't negotiate their peace to earn belonging. the one who doesn't need to manifest powerfully because they're already anchored in their own presence. That version is not a goal. It's a homecoming dot, and home is never a performance dot. It's a return dot. It's when your nervous system exhales without needing permission dot. It's when your inner world stops translating every silence as danger, every delay as punishment, every stillness as rejection. This recalibration isn't conceptual. It's physiological. You don't need more affirmations. You need more space to feel what your affirmations are trying to override. You don't need louder intentions. You need quieter shame. Not because shame is wrong, but because it's old. And when shame is softened instead of suppressed, it releases its grip on your behavior, your patterns, your vibration. And then you begin to live without a split frequency. You stop saying one thing while bracing for another. You stop performing joy while preparing for loss. You stop chasing love while expecting to be abandoned. This doesn't happen all at once. It happens in waves. And the field doesn't wait for you to master it before responding. It starts echoing every small act of coherence. Every moment you say, I trust, and mean it with your breath. Every time you stop arguing with the now and let it be enough. These moments create ripples, and those ripples become timelines. And yet, some timelines may still feel stuck. You may wonder, why isn't it changing yet? I've done the work. I feel aligned. I've softened. Where is it? Here's the truth. Sometimes the field is rearranging reality behind the scenes, not as a test, but as a tuning. What feels like delay is often a deepening. The universe isn't late, it's listening. It's removing what you didn't realize was blocking you. It's reconfiguring the path so it doesn't just look right, it feels right. Because resonance doesn't just land what you want. It lands what matches who you've become. And sometimes, who you've become no longer wants what you used to. Ask for, that's growth. That's alignment clarifying itself. And that's why patience is not passive, it's magnetic. It says, I know who I am. I trust what's mine. I don't chase it arrives. This isn't arrogance, it's frequency fluency. The quiet knowing that the field isn't ignoring you. It's harmonizing with your now. And when you stay steady in that now, even when the evidence isn't immediate, you become a tuning fork for everything that matches your new truth. This is why integrity matters more than urgency. The field is less interested in your speed than your signal. You can't hurry coherence. You can only meet it. You can only become honest enough to stop faking safety, because the moment you stop faking is the moment you're real. Timeline can find you, and it will, because the field is intelligent, not emotionally, not morally, but vibrationally. It doesn't care if you've suffered. It doesn't punish. It doesn't judge. It simply matches. And this is where responsibility meets liberation. If the field doesn't judge, it also doesn't protect you from your own broadcast. That's why being the observer is so powerful. Not to criticize your energy, but to clean it up. You begin to ask, gently, what am I actually radiating? Not what you hope, not what you post, but what you live. What do your mornings broadcast? What do your relationships broadcast? What does your silence say to the field? These aren't questions to shame you. They're questions to tune you. Because tuning doesn't happen in declarations. It happens in embodiment. And embodiment doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. So begin noticing where your life already feels like ease. Notice where people already respond to your true frequency without you performing. Notice what decisions make your breath longer, your voice softer, your eyes brighter. These are not trivial moments. They are BREADCRUMBS. They are portals, and when you follow them, even imperfectly, your reality shifts. Not because you bent it to your will, but because you stopped bending yourself out of alignment. This is the deepest magic. You don't need to convince life to love you. You only need to become someone who no longer resists being loved. You don't need to manifest the future. You need to stop rehearsing the past. You don't need to do more. You need to feel more clearly. The signal is already inside you. The field is already tuned to respond. You don't need to scream into the void. You only need to whisper in alignment. You only need to exist fully as yourself. Not the version of you who got everything right, but the version who remembers that being real is the highest resonance dot, and when you live from there, you become unforgettable. Not because of fame, not because of validation, but because the universe recognizes itself in you, and everything that belongs to you begins to find its way home. There comes a moment, not loud, not ceremonial, where the energy shifts, where what once felt like grasping now feels like resting, where manifestation loses its urgency and becomes a side effect of coherence. Not a technique you wield, but a song you remember how to hum. This moment isn't marked by fireworks or divine signs. It's marked by breath, by stillness, by the soft, almost imperceptible choice to stop contorting yourself into someone else's blueprint and begin listening to the sound of your own. You begin to realize that the life you were trying so hard to build was never outside you. It was hidden beneath layers of resistance, inherited urgency, borrowed beliefs. All this time, you weren't far, you were just fragmented. Your thoughts had run ahead. Your emotions had circled back. Your breath was caught in the middle, trying to hold a frequency between past fear and future fantasy. But when all parts of you finally gather in the now, something changes. You stop asking, "How do I make it happen?" and begin whispering, "How do I become more here?" This is the return dot, and in that return, reality softens. You begin to move through the world, not with expectation, but with intimacy. You notice things more. The way light lands on your coffee, the way silence stretches longer between your thoughts, the way someone says your name and it doesn't twist your stomach anymore. These aren't spiritual awakenings in the dramatic sense. They are vibrational confirmations. Evidence that your body is no longer tuning itself to absence, that your nervous system is no longer bracing against joy, that your field has shifted not because you demanded it, but because you finally stopped resisting your own resonance. Here's something radical. Your life doesn't improve through control. It improves through intimacy with yourself, with your sensations, with your now. You don't need to be high vibe all the time. That's just another mask. What the quantum field reads is not your mood, it's your music. Not your positivity, but your presence. Some of the most coherent frequencies are born in grief, silence, surrender, because those are the moments when all pretenses fall away, and only what's real remains. So what remains in you now, beneath the striving? Maybe a softness you didn't know you had access to. Maybe a longing that no longer aches. Maybe a clarity that doesn't speak loudly, but stands unmoved. This is your compass now. Not the endless chase for results, but the quiet alignment of your internal tone. The way your body knows when something resonates before your mind can explain it. The way your cells lean toward truth without needing a reason. When you live from this place, the field responds in kind, not as reward, not as magic, but as resonance. Reality starts harmonizing with you, not because you said the right words, but because you stopped fighting the signal you were born to emit. This is why the future you imagined can't arrive until the present you surrenders to simplicity. Not laziness, not apathy, but that sacred exhale that says, "I'm done negotiating with the field." Because every time you bribe life with effort, you confirm you still don't trust your beingness. And every time you rest, fully, not just in posture, but in vibration, you become a lighthouse. Not the kind that searches, but the kind that radiates. From this place, the timelines you used to chase start walking toward you. Not because you manifested harder, but because you tuned deeper. You're no longer emitting desperation. You're no longer broadcasting fear in the disguise of hope. You're standing in signal. And that signal says, this is who I am, and everything that belongs to this frequency is welcome. And what if that's all you ever needed? Not a louder voice, not a clearer plan, but a more honest signal. One that doesn't rise from panic, but from peace. One that doesn't argue with the past or beg the future, but simply hums in resonance with truth. So now, the question becomes gentle. Who are you when you no longer perform? What do you choose when you don't have to prove? What do you receive when you stop bracing for loss? The answers won't come in words. They'll come in sensations, in relationships that feel easier, in moments that ask for less, in choices that feel like home. And eventually, you'll notice that you're no longer trying to manifest it all. You're simply living, breathing, broadcasting, receiving, and everything responds. And so, without fanfare or finish line, you begin to realize there's nothing left to chase, only something left to remember, that your life has never been waiting for perfection, only presence. You are not a problem to fix or a frequency to force. You are a quiet intelligence already woven into the fabric of the field. In your breath, the pattern is already shifting. In your stillness, the signal is already sent. The timelines you longed for were never locked behind effort. They were always listening for resonance. And now that you've stopped performing and started embodying, you don't need to prove, persuade, or push. You simply live, lightly, clearly, coherently. And everything aligns, not because you won a prize, but because you became the tone that peace, love, and abundance already recognize as home. Subscribe to our channel so we can meet again next time. Other stories are also waiting for you, quietly, patiently, already tuned to your return.